how to find a good Chinese herbalist. I'm Marie Hopkinson, Chinese medicine practitioner, and I'm going to take you through a step-by-step way that you can use to help you find the best practitioner for you. Firstly, when we talk about the word herbalist, it's a good idea to differentiate that there are Chinese herbal medicine, Chinese medicine practitioners that are herbalists, and then there's Western-based practitioners who are herbalists. So that would be usually called a naturopath who practices herbal medicine. It might be different how they talk about it in your country, but certainly in Australia, most Western herbalists, they might call themselves a medical herbalist, like that basically infers that they are practicing within the boundaries of Western medicine, not Chinese medicine. Sometimes they do use Chinese herbs, but what makes Chinese medicine different for herbal medicine, the big one, is probably the pulse diagnosis. So if you're interested in that, then just jump on my pulse video. There's a different video on the website there, on the YouTube page. So what we're talking about today is how you, as a person who's like looking for treatment, how you can find a good herbalist, a good Chinese medicine herbalist. So I'm going to talk about regulation for both of those things. And so you could use this to find yourself a Western herbalist or a medical herbalist or a Chinese herbalist. But I'm sorry if my default is back to Chinese medicine, because that's just pretty much all I live, eat and breathe and sleep. So in some countries like Australia, there is regulation around it. So that's either the profession will either be self-regulated. So in Australia, medical herbalists or Western herbalists or naturopaths are self-regulated. So that means the government's not really interfering in what they're doing. But their own professional associations are kind of guiding and saying, well, this is what you need to do. This is how many years of study you need to do. This is this kind of thing. But actually, at the end of the day, there's nothing to stop any old man and his dog kind of doing that in those unregulated professions. So you do have people saying, oh, I'm a herbalist, and they could have had no training at all. They could have just read a few books, watched on Google or something like that, and away they go. Unfortunately, that can be the case, and that is why I'm making this video, because it can be a bit of a minefield for people to find the right practitioner in those situations. And certainly in Australia, it's only been in the last 5 years or so where we've had regulation. And so prior to that time, which is the majority of my practice time, I would have patients that would come in, they'd be like, I don't know how to find someone who's like, what's registered? How do I know, if they've done any study at all whatsoever, or if the study's legitimate? They could have just gone to this school on the internet and it might not be legitimate. So the nice thing is in our profession, in the naturopathy profession as well as Chinese medicine, there aren't too many scammers in there. There aren't a lot, but there are some people that, it's obviously human nature to kind of do that. So you do have to watch out for that stuff in some cases, but in the majority of cases, in the majority of things, the profession itself, and obviously, if people have a bad experience, now, it's all over the internet in 5 minutes. So that kind of stops that behaviour quite quickly. So in Australia, we have a government registration body called AHPRA, AHPRA.gov.au. Now, I'll put those links in the description below so you can kind of look at those if you need to. You can go into AHPRA and find any registered profession, so nurses, doctors, that kind of thing in there, podiatrists, physiotherapists, that kind of stuff. So Chinese medicine practitioners the person will either be called, like for me, I'm a registered Chinese medicine practitioner, registered as an acupuncturist, and registered as a Chinese herbalist. So we're talking about herbal medicine today, so if you want to find a Chinese herbalist, you definitely want to make sure they're registered with AHPRA for that in that situation, because that means they've gone through that registration process. So they're a registered Chinese medicine practitioner. You want to make sure of that first. If you're not in Australia, you can go to your local, I know in the US, particular local, like the individual government of that, excuse my terms, I'm not 100% sure, but the county or the state, I think it's the state registration has different, so there might be different requirements in different states for different, and and sometimes you can't practice in one state, but you can practice in another state. Lucky in Australia, if you can practice in one state, you can practice in all of the states of Australia. But yeah, so what I'm saying is you might find through that government website, they'll show you, well, here's a list of all our registered practitioners, in this particular state. They also have association bodies. So if we're talking about the naturopaths or the non-Chinese medicine herbalists, so Western-based herbalists, then that would be through those professional associations. So in Australia, we have like ATMS, ANTA, those kind of things, complementary medicine bodies, that sort of stuff. And so people, the practitioners join those professions voluntarily, but in order to stay registered with that thing, they have to stay accountable to a certain, registration requirements. So they've had to have had a certain number of hours of education and things like that. And that often also links in with health fund registration for Chinese medicine or for herbal medicine. So in every country it's the same like this. The health funds don't want to support in Australia they're actually stopping to support unproven therapies now. So that's a whole nother debate, but that is often linked in with being a member of that professional association. So in the UK, it's the same. If you're a member of that professional association, then that's linked in with your status, your ability to get to be a health fund provider. So getting into the crux of this video about how you can find a good herbalist, I think the first thing to consider is, firstly, let's say you've done a Google search or something like that. So let's say you've gone past that barrier of registration, and you know that they're somewhat registered, or if they're in Australia they're registered with AHPRA. The first thing to consider is location. So location's different for every person. So it depends on your values. Some patients are willing to travel a long way because of the other things we'll talk about that are important to seeing that practitioner there. But in general, it's better if the practitioner has to be, which is the second point, is accessible to you in some way. So I have patients that are willing to travel a few hours to see me. They live in the country and they come up and see me. Chinese herbal medicine is different to acupuncture. We generally don't need to see you as often. Now, I'm speaking for my practice and people that practice the system of herbs that I do. Generally we don't have to see patients that often as time goes on. But when you first see patients, and certainly the level of care that we can give you is going to be different if we see you regularly. So for instance, if something changes and you get a cold or a flu and you want to use Chinese herbal medicine to as your primary healthcare modality, then you'll need to come and see that practitioner as soon as possible. So you need to find someone who's accessible to you. You're able to get there. Whether if you need to come by public transport, or you need to the factors that are important there are met that location. It might be that they're close to your work. If you have a chronic healthcare condition particularly and you need to be seen regularly, then it's better to find someone that you can go on your lunch break at work time, or you can go after work, or you can they are open, they're seeing patients on your day off. Lots of practitioners don't work every single day. They may work just mornings or afternoons or particular times, things like that. So that's the first one, is location. Is that going to work for you? The second one is accessibility. Do they have the things that you need to be able to see them? Do they have the hours available, the time frame, that sort of stuff? Now, obviously it can't be perfect, but if there's some ability for you to negotiate with that and to work in with their times, then that's going to be a person that works for you. For instance, I go away a lot. Now that doesn't, my practice is primarily herbal medicine now, not so much acupuncture, but I do acupuncture on patients a lot, but I see a lot of patients that are taking herbs as well. So what that means is I won't need to see patients as regularly. I can see them like once a fortnight. Often when they first start the treatment, I won't see them until 2 weeks later. Now, if it was just acupuncture, I'd probably have to see them in a couple of days later. So that makes a big difference in even just when you're first deciding if you're going to do Chinese medicine, are you going to do herbs or acupuncture or both of those things. Often that's a consideration. But that's probably another video. So we're talking about location and accessibility. So is that practitioner's hours available? Are they accessible to you in those hours? With herbal medicine, quite often that's not as big of a consideration, because we can give you herbs. Like for instance, I go away for study a lot, and when I'm going away, I'll make sure that the patients have enough herbs to last them. Or like let's say you close up over Christmas. It's not such a big deal with herbal medicine, because you can give patients 2-3 weeks of herbs at a time quite often for chronic problems. So that's one aspect of it. So accessibility and location. And then you've got like their ability to, the practitioner's ability to treat you, or their style of practice. Now, if you know anything about Chinese medicine or herbal medicine, and this might be, you might prefer a Western style approach, you might prefer a Chinese medicine style approach, you might, find a practitioner focuses more on a particular aspect of diagnosis, and that may appeal to you more. Or you may have had that style before and that's worked for you, and now you've moved to a new place. If that's happened, if that's you're watching this video because you've moved to a new location, you're looking for another herbalist to treat you, can carry on your case, it's worthwhile asking your previous herbalist. Legally, you can request your records to be transferred to that herbalist if you want them to. or you can request a copy of the records for yourself. But more than that, it's more knowing, well, what did you give me? What formulas did you give me? Or what style of treatment were you giving me? And all that consent has to come from you. Like the practitioner, as a practitioner, I can't ring up another practitioner and say, hey, you treated Johnny, can you tell me what he took? That's breaching Johnny's confidentiality. Johnny has to request the records to come, basically either come to him or be sent straight to me. So yeah, if that's you're watching this video and you're thinking, yeah, I'm moving places and I've been doing really well with herbs, and I'm looking for a new practitioner. Your existing practitioner may also just be able to give you a referral to someone. That's great, but quite often if they can't do that and you're the one looking for the new practitioner, you want to know what style they used on you, or what previous formulas they used on you, because that is quite a lot. It's a really valuable information if something hasn't worked and they've already tried it. You don't want that new practitioner to just try that other formula again, if that hasn't worked already, or they know what result you got from that. So that's one thing. So is the style going to be similar to what you had before? And I mean, it's pretty common for most lay people. I mean, even some Chinese medicine people don't know what style they're doing, just a generic TCM style. But if they do have a particular style, some people use Japanese style. I do a classical style of Chinese medicine. There's different aspects of it. So finding someone that fits for you. Now, if you're not sure about what their style is, go on their website and have a look. The reason why I make a lot of videos about what I'm doing is because I want people to understand what I'm doing, and I want them to feel that my style is going to fit with them. So if they are expecting someone to talk to them for an hour, that's not going to happen in my clinic. I don't do that. So for herbal medicine, we primarily use pulse diagnosis, and we probably have like about 15 minutes of talking, in the consult time, and then we're, making up the herbs or doing the acupuncture treatment or whatever's next. So you want to make sure that that the practitioners, the style is gonna, one, be able to help you and suit what you're coming in with. So for instance, if you have a fertility issue and that practitioner doesn't treat fertility stuff, they purposely don't want to treat that, then maybe don't go and see them. But if they have a special interest in that, and that's, that may be something that, you think, yeah, that's good, I want to see that. Just because a practitioner doesn't have expertise in that area, but they still have a willingness to treat that, doesn't mean they can't. And I'm really grateful for the patients, especially when I very first came out of studying and had started practicing, patients that trusted me enough to take on their case, and because that's how you learn as a practitioner. When I'm seeing a patient with a condition that I've never treated myself before, I might have seen my teacher treat it, or I might have read about it in a textbook or something like that, or seen it treated in China. That's really common. I'm paying a lot more attention to that and putting a lot more effort mentally onto that, and I really want to study and research, because as a practitioner, I want to get things right. I want to help people. I don't want to I want to do the best I can for people. And so sometimes that can be of benefit to you. So don't just dismiss the fact that, that practitioner's never treated this kind of cancer, or they've never treated this kind of thing, or they've never treated any patients with my condition. One thing to remember is Chinese medicine. The Chinese medicine framework treats people, not illnesses. We treat you as a person, and we want to increase the functionality, and that's another thing is the style again. Some styles of Chinese medicine are an attacking kind of style, and they may not really understand that whole functional Chinese medicine aspect, but that's sorry about ranting on about my own thing. I just get super passionate and I can't stop talking sometimes. So you've got to find a practitioner that's the style is going to suit you. So how do you do that? You can either go on their website, you can read the stuff that they've written. They might have published some articles, they might have some video blogs or some talks and things you can listen to. You might even just see by the photo that you think, okay, this person, looks like a caring person, or, you perceive that they can help you. That is a big aspect in healthcare. Like you want to go to someone that you trust. And I can't tell, what makes you trust one practitioner and what makes someone else trust another practitioner might be completely different. So you have to feel comfortable with that person. For whatever makes you feel comfortable with them, then that's important, okay? So first thing is the location and the accessibility, and then the practitioner's ability to treat you. Are they willing to treat you? Do they have expertise in that area? If they don't have expertise, do they have access to a mentor or someone who can help them in that difficult case? That's something to consider. So you may live in a remote area, let's say, and there's only one practitioner, within miles, and so you either see them or you don't get any treatment at all. So that would be the factor to consider. With herbal medicine, there are ways of, like, let's say you can actually fly overseas and see an expert that you might see, and they may give you months and months of herbs, but in the end, someone's going to have to follow up your case, and so it may be within your means to fly overseas to see someone to treat you, but it may not be, and so you don't want to. That's part of the accessibility. Is the cost and the time involved in doing that, affordable and feasible for you. So then we get on to the speciality of the practitioner, or the expertise of that practitioner. In Australia, actually, our law prohibits us from using that word specialist. So a practitioner can't really say, I'm a fertility specialist, or I'm a gastroenterology specialist in Chinese herbal medicine, or like I specialize in gut problems or something like that. We can't use that because that word specialist is reserved for like Western medicine specialists. It's the same as like a doctor, that terminology. So we can't use that word specialist. So just because you don't see that, some practitioners in Australia, they use the term, I have a special interest in these terms, but even that sometimes, may be misconstrued as saying you're a specialist. So some practitioners just stay away from using that. So don't let that put you off thinking, because they don't say they specialize in fertility, doesn't mean they can't treat it. Once you're at the point where you think, okay, this person's got the hours available to see me, and I can see that, they're in the location that I could go to, and the accessibility seems right, like the special needs that you have. You might have like a wheelchair access need, or you might have something that you need to have there, so that those things are all worked out. It's a good idea to call their office to find out these other things, and you can always call, like I know for my clinic, I don't answer the phone there, the receptionist answers the phone, and so people can call and say, look, I want to make an appointment with Marie. Does she treat lower back pain? Or would you take on my case? I have this, or could I you don't have to divulge your personal information to the receptionist. You can just say, I'd like to speak to the practitioner, to the acupuncturist, to the herbalist, or whoever's there that you want to speak to, and they can give you a call back and chat to you. Some practitioners are willing to do that. I know other practitioners are not willing to do that. It depends on how much time they have. You could just go straight to booking an initial appointment and sort of suss this stuff out at the initial appointment as well. So that's one thing to do, is to find that out. So I'm talking especially if you're looking for someone who, you want to use herbal medicine as your primary care medicine. And so you need to find someone who's accessible and available to you, and who's going to be able to meet the needs that you have, your healthcare needs, in the long term. You don't want to just be going, it's a benefit for you to stick with one practitioner rather than going here, going there all the time. So we found someone who's accessible and who's the location's good, and their ability to treat you, their willingness to treat you is there, their special interest is there. And I think the next thing that's really important is also the rapport that you have with the practitioner. Do you get along with the practitioner? Do you can you understand them? Can you have a dialogue with them? Can you have converse with them? Okay. To the level that you want. Now, some people don't want to do that, and that's totally fine. They're just happy. They get the herbs. They do the treatment, and that's it. Some patients want a lot of talking, and the practitioner doesn't do that, and there can be a bit of a clash there. And so some of it's a bit of a willingness to compromise. If the treatment's working, then that may trump all of those things. Some people tend to use their Chinese medicine practitioners as almost a counsellor, and that's not really what Chinese medicine's about. So if you've got those kind of problems and that's concerning you, maybe the herbalist will say to you, or the Chinese medicine practitioner, acupuncturist might say to you, hey, you probably need to see a counsellor, because they're not equipped to or counsel you through mental health problems, or life crises, or life coaching, or things like that. Now, your practitioner may offer those services in addition to what they do, and that may be of a benefit to you. So that's something else to look at, is if that's something you want and that's something they offer, well, great, that seems like that's a perfect match. So you are sort of interviewing that practitioner, I guess, on the first time you see them. You're kind of sussing them out and thinking, is this practitioner going to be able to help me? And so what's going to help you is going to be individual to what you need, and what someone else needs might be different, or what they perceive as important for their healthcare practitioner to have. So you've got the location and the accessibility, and the practitioners actually are able to treat you. They're registered in whichever way, according to your country's regulations, and they have the expertise, or they have the access to that. And I think one other thing that's really important, and the fifth thing was the rapport with you. Like, you can build a rapport with them. You can get along with them. They're not going to be your best friend, but you're gonna feel comfortable. I think that's probably the better word. You feel comfortable with them. You feel that they care about you. You feel that they care about your treating you, your case, whatever that is. That you feel comfortable with them. Oh, so probably something I should mention about comfortable with them is, sometimes even gender can play a role in this. I had some patients that, they've just rung up and said, look, I just want to make sure I'm not going to be treated by a man because I wouldn't feel comfortable with a man. And that's totally fine. Maybe the other way around. Some people feel uncomfortable with the opposite sex, or with the same sex for whatever reason. Or they want to bring someone with them to the consult because they don't feel comfortable the first time they come in. They want to bring their partner, or they want to bring a relative or something like that. I mean, even like a therapy pet or something like that. That's totally fine. And you can, if you're not sure about that stuff, call the practice and check in with them first and see if if they can accommodate those needs that you have. So I guess some practitioners are operating like as a solo practice, and when you book in, you're definitely going to see them. Whereas some practices, you book in and it's like, I'm just booking in for a herbal medicine treatment, and I could be seeing one of 5 practitioners. Who knows who I'm going to be seeing? So that's something that you just kind of suss out before you kind of get to booking the appointment. So that's one thing. And then the last thing I want to mention is the practitioners' commitment to ongoing learning. I think that's really important. How passionate they are about their profession. Sometimes it's normal for passion to kind of wane and go up and down. But how committed they are to ongoing learning means that how well they're going to be able to treat your case. But also, the longer you're in practice, yes, okay, the more experience you have, but you only have experience in what you're keeping on doing. You don't have experience in doing anything like incorporating new things unless you're actually exposing yourself to those new things, or exposing yourself to different understandings. And often with Chinese medicine, it's not about keeping up with the latest research, actually. It's probably the opposite of that. It's about how well you understand that ancestral heritage, and how well you understand, Chinese medicine sages look to the past, basically. So you're looking to, the application of what you've done in the past to your own patients, from other cases, from getting access to your mentor or people that are like-minded in your profession. How connected that person is to those things will make a big difference in how well they can treat you. So, for instance, if I have a difficult case, there's a whole bunch of people I can ask a question to, and it's not just a random group of people on Facebook, but they're people that actually know the same system that I use, and that makes a huge difference in my practice. So if there's something that's really stumps you, or you're not sure about, and it's not just say for instance a case, it might be just it's a commitment. Does that practitioner have a commitment to the continual understanding of Chinese medicine? And Chinese medicine is something that you never really actually learn all of it. I think I can probably just say that safely now, I guess. You can never really understand it, because it's not until you've been doing it for 10 years that you realize. Sometimes I'll be teaching a first year Chinese medicine class, and I've taught this class many, many times, and you're just teaching the very basic principles, and sometimes the penny will drop for me, and not from the basic level, but from another level, and you think, wow, that's really what that means, because it's taken you 10 years of seeing all these cases to realize, hey, that's what they were meaning, or that is not exactly what they were meaning, but it's another level of what they were meaning. It's another level of what that means. So does the practitioner have a commitment to understanding and learning? Research is important too. Maybe that is the focus of their practice, and they're very research-based practice, and that may be what appeals to you to go and see them. So it doesn't matter if they're a Chinese medicine practitioner or a Western herbal medicine practitioner. These are all things that you can use to kind of help you find the best person for you. And you're probably thinking, well, Marie, you've stocked all this stuff, but you haven't mentioned price or cost or anything in there either. And that is a big consideration. I think cost probably comes into the accessibility or accessibility for you. So if cost is prohibiting you from accessing it, then that could be a bit of a downside. So all of these aspects that I've said in helping you find a good practitioner are kind of, they're not in a hierarchy for the same hierarchy for every person. Some people are willing to travel really far, or they're willing to spend a lot more money because of a person's reputation, because of a person's skill, because they value that skill. Whereas other people, they just probably don't perceive that, or they don't know about different skills, and so they think, yeah, that person would be great for me to see, but it's just too expensive, or it's just too far, or I just can't go, I just can't spend that much time. It's not just about the money that you spend. The cost of the treatment is how much time am I going to have to spend to go and do all these treatments and do these things. And so the cost, is something that you want to consider. Now, usually herbal medicine practitioners charge you in two ways. They'll charge you for the consultation, and that's to sit there and have the chat to you, check your pulse, maybe look at your tongue, or the other aspects that they do, where I do a bit of abdominal diagnosis sometimes for herbal medicine. And so do the diagnostic stuff and ask you the questions, and then write out your herbal formula. And then they're going to need to prepare your herbal formula. Now, some practitioners just prepare it straight away there and then. Some practitioners just prescribe herbs in pre-prepared things. So sometimes I'll give my patients like pre-prepared pills or things like that, but that's very rare. Usually I've got to actually make up the herbs themselves. So you can see behind me there's a whole bunch of herbs here. These are what's called boiling up raw herbs. So this would be made up for you in a little bag, and then you'd have to boil that up and drink that. That's one way of preparing the herbs. The herbs might come in granules, so I'm not going to go through all that here because there's so many different ways herbs can be made. But that does influence the cost of the herbs. So you need to talk to your practitioner about that. How much do you roughly think herbs will cost? Now, most practitioners will be able to give you a rough estimate. So it might be around $50 a week is a pretty common amount of money to spend on Chinese medicine. Now that's in Australian dollars, and it honestly, it will really vary depending on the cost of herbs. So an unfortunate thing that's happening in Australia is the cost of Chinese medicine, like the actual cost of the raw ingredients, the herbs themselves, is going up quite a lot. So in my practice, I try to keep that cost down as much as possible. So it just depends on how much time it takes to prepare the herbs for you and what's in the formula, whether there's really expensive ingredients in there, and how much volume of herbs you need, obviously, is included in that. So that's all stuff you need to discuss with your practitioner. And I guess with trying to find a good herbalist is finding someone that's willing, that does actually have the ability to prescribe the quality of herbs that you want to. So one other important aspect of Chinese herbal medicine is actually how the herbs are given to you in the end. And that comes in with cost, but it also comes into it with your commitment to actually taking the herbs and whether you can take the herbs like that. So there's lots of different forms of herbal medicine. So if you go and see a medical herbalist or a Western herbalist, often they'll be liquid or powders or pills. They may sometimes combine like vitamins and different organic compounds that are used to give you as your herbs or your treatment. With it, when a Chinese herbalist treats you, we only give you one formula at a time. You can pretty much say that. I mean, maybe some practitioners don't, but 99% of practitioners give you one formula at a time. So we're checking your pulse, we're seeing what are we going to treat right now. We treat that, and then we kind of treat the next thing, and then the next thing. So the formulas change as your pulse and your symptoms change. So the herbs I've got behind me, these are like the boiling up herbs. Or the raw herbs, the bulk herbs. So what that means is you'll get a bag of herbs and you'll need to soak them and boil them and then drink the liquid. And that is usually the most expensive way of herbs, but it's also the most effective way of herbs. Some formulas can't be taken as a boiling up decoction, like as a drink. They have to be done as a powder. or some herbs are better off being done as a pill. And I think that's something to consider when you're choosing a practitioner. How important is that to you, the quality of herbs that they actually can prescribe? Are they doing the best that they can to provide you the best quality that they possibly can? Because it's a lot of work to do all the diagnosis, and then you let's say they prescribe you the right formula, but maybe those herbs aren't working so well because the form that you're taking them in is not an effective form. So the worst form of the herbs are these little pills that you can get from over the counter, like sort of in Chinatowns and that kind of stuff. Now, I've always thought they're not that effective at all, but I have seen some cases where they have been effective, and to my wonder, I guess, my bewilderment. So I'm not saying that they're terrible in entirety, but yeah, they're just like, I'm not going to mention the brands of them, but if you just go over the counter to any Chinese food shops, you can find them there. And when I was studying Chinese medicine, I used to use that stuff all the time because I didn't have access to this stuff. I didn't know how to do that yet. And I was just kind of learning, and I would just go down to the Chinese food shop and think, I've got a sore throat, I need to get some like yin chao san or something like that, and you just bang away with that. And like those little pills can be useful for some things, but their effectiveness is on the lower scale. So let's say you need that formula and the practitioner prescribes you it in those with that brand, or that, that's the quality of the actual ingredients. How important is that to you? So that's something that they might be able to discuss with you at your initial consultation. And certainly I'd be really happy if my patients kind of wanted to discuss that with me. And in my practice, we have lots of options for people. Some practitioners just don't have the time to provide those options for people. They don't have the time to make up boiling up herbs for them, or they don't have the time to grind things to powder, or they only do things ground from sort of what we call raw ground to powder. And I'm not having a go at any of those methods, like they're all valid methods. It's just that comes down to that personal preference of that practitioner, how passionate they are and how skilled they are about using those things. In my practice, I often use granules, and that is a very common way of utilizing Chinese medicine. Because one thing is the compliance of these is, even though the effectiveness is really high, the compliance tends to be a lot lower. Now that doesn't mean that, it's a generalization for me to say that the compliance is lower, because maybe some patients are willing to take that. So if you've got a condition and you're willing to do whatever it takes, and you come in and say, Marie, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll take, I'll drink a bucket of herbs if I need to a day. Then, am I as a practitioner willing to go and make up these boiling up herbs for you? That's it's not something you want to discuss with your practitioner. There's a lot of information now around on the internet, on YouTube and stuff about Chinese medicine, so you can kind of learn a little bit more for yourself, and you can be more informed about that, about the quality, about the processing and all that sort of stuff about Chinese herbs, if that's what you're interested in. But really, this video is about how to find a good herbalist, and that is part of it. So that's why I'm mentioning it. There's lots of different forms of Chinese herbal medicine, and so you may be a patient that thinks, I just want to get a bit better, or I just want to get better, but there's no way I can take those yucky herbs. That's a common thing people say, and even though they, I might not consider them to be that yucky, and they just, they really find that taste, or having to take them every day is so difficult, and so they just want to take the pills. They're happy to kind of do that. So I think that's really important. One thing is to consider that, and then the final thing is the cost. So the cost is kind of part of the form of the herbs that we prescribe. So by giving my patients different options, I can provide them with different cost options, or like that. That's one thing. So asking your practitioner how much you think the herbs will cost them roughly. So look, if I prescribe patients boiling up herbs, the cost will be a lot more than if I prescribe them granules. But I'll just usually tell them, look, on a rough estimate, it'll cost you this much a week for Chinese herbs, and I think you should be taking the herbs, as an average. I would say people would, they need to commit to several months of taking herbs. If you've got a cold or a flu and you're otherwise healthy, then you may only take the herbs for a week or 2 weeks. But there's always other formulas we can give you to kind of help maintain that health and keep you healthier. That's also another aspect. Then there's other videos that I've got on those kinds of things. So yeah, it's very hard for me to make these videos without rambling on about other topics, I think. So yeah, the herbs are part of the cost, I guess. So there's two parts of the cost. One is the herbal formula itself, and then there is the consultation. The benefit of doing herbs over just doing acupuncture is that I can see patients less regularly, so the cost for them is lower. So I don't have to do like I'm charging you for a consultation because that's the time that you have to come in. So it's costing you your time to come in. So if I do that with acupuncture, I need to do that once or twice a week. If you don't take herbs, if you do take herbs, then we might see you really periodically, and that's very common for medical herbalists or Western herbalists as well. They'll see patients maybe every couple of months. And they give you so you might, the cost might be a lot at the time when you come in. Quite often what I do with my patients is I'll see you, weekly or fortnightly for a couple of times. And then we might go to monthly, and then we might go 6 weekly. And once you're at to sort of monthly, I might give you 2 weeks of herbs, and, or you can either have the option. And this is, again, you need to talk to your practitioner about what options they give you. So I often give patients the option, do you want me to make you 2 weeks of herbs? And then you ring up and I'll make you another 2 weeks and you can pick them up. Or do you want me to make you a month's worth now? Those kinds of things. So, because I'm aware that it's not just the cost of the patient's money, but it's their time. It costs you time to drive to the clinic and pick up the herbs, or we can do, some practitioners do posting out options and things like that as well. So hopefully this video has been informative for you and helpful for you to help you find a good herbalist, a good acupuncturist in your local area. I haven't really touched too much on unregulated aspect of the profession. If you're in a country where there isn't a government regulation, in that case, you'd go to your professional association and try to see that they are registered with some kind of professional association. You can ring the professional association and say to them, what's the deal with the regulation in this country or this state? How do I find how do I weed out, let's say for want of a better word, the dodgier practitioners? How do I weed out those people? How do I find someone like that? Something to consider when you're looking for a practitioner as well is, Google reviews and Facebook reviews and those kinds of things. Now, in Australia, we are not allowed to have those reviews on our page if they mention things about treatment. So we have to ask the patients to remove them unless we cannot remove them. So I think on Google pages, you can't remove them. So like if someone puts a comment on my Google page, like I literally cannot ask, there's no way of asking them to remove it. But on Facebook, if someone goes onto my Facebook business page and says, oh, Marie was so great, the treatment was lovely, and I'm all better now, whatever it was, I have to ask them to remove that because it's actually breaking the law, because we're not allowed to have testimonial advertising. That's in Australia. I'm not sure about the UK, but in the US, definitely they're allowed testimonial advertising, and they milk that, turkey till the cows come home. So that's something to consider, is just because you go on a Facebook page and you think, oh, there's no reviews here, or you go on Yelp or these kind of review pages or Google. And that actually, it's a downside to our practice because less people can find us. The more reviews that are there, the more it can find us. Now, if you are, thinking about reviewing your practitioner, you can put a review in Australia. It says, oh, I came in and the staff were lovely, the facilities were nice, and, everyone was, I was treated well, or something like that. You can't put a claim. It's just therapeutic claims about the treatment. Like, oh, I had the worst back pain ever and now it's gone. Or, I had a baby because you helped me with my fertility treatment or something like that. Those are testimonials, or even what we call purported testimonials. So it could be misconstrued as a testimonial. So that's something to consider. Just because you don't see those things, particularly in Australia, doesn't mean that practitioner's not a good practitioner. Finding someone who's, and if you do find practitioners who've got those reviews in Australia, they're probably not a registered practitioner. And if they are a registered practitioner, then they're breaking the law with those reviews. If they're putting them on there themselves, particularly. So some practitioners just aren't up on their Facebook page and they're not checking it all the time, and that they haven't asked people to take those things down. That's an issue. But people who put testimonials on their website is actually breaking the law if they're a registered practitioner. So I'm talking about Chinese herbal medicine, acupuncture, those Chinese medicine professions. With medical herbalism, naturopathy, that's all totally okay because they're not under the law. So some some professional associations don't like them to use testimonials because it seems unprofessional, because in Australia, our profession, what we've considered professional medicine, is not to use testimonials. The reason why we don't use testimonials is because it can be misleading for patients. What it's saying is, just because Johnny had a good experience doesn't mean everyone's going to have a good experience. Just because Johnny's back pain was better doesn't mean your back pain's going to be better. And it can be misleading for people that don't understand that concept, and they just read it, oh wow, this is the best treatment ever, let me spend all my money on that and let me do that treatment. So yeah, that's something to consider. So I really hope this video has been useful to you, and that it helps you find a good practitioner and you find someone that you can trust. And if you've got any other questions, you can leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what your experience has been. Have you had a bad experience, a good experience trying to find a practitioner? Have I left anything out of this video that you think, hey Marie, you missed out this? I think this is really important. So thank you so much, and it'd be great if you can hit the subscribe button on my channel, hit the notification bell, and that way you'll get all the videos when I make them. And have a great week. I hope you're feeling good, and life is just getting better and better.